Hello and welcome to episode 287 of the 77 Club. Harry, start with the socials.
Yes, the Wall 77 Club on X and Instagram. No, we're not. We're at 77 Club Podcast on X. Anyway, we said, didn't we, earlier, we're on 1,918 subscribers on YouTube. So if you're watching on YouTube and you haven't subscribed, it's free. Can you please click the button because it helps the show and we want to pass that 2,000 mark. Thank you very much.
And look who it is. He's joining us for his first podcast of the year and first podcast in what seems like forever. Hello to Dan Bayliss.
Hello. Yeah, sorry, I've been all over the place. But I am now back.
Mentally, physically, all of the above. Harry, let's start with Wolverhampton Wanderers 0, Nottingham Forest 3. Wasn't quite the line that we're expecting. I'll just go through it very quickly. Jose Sarr in goal, Doherty, Bueno, Nori. Pedro Lima makes his first Premier League start. Tommy Dore, João Gomez, Rodrigo Gomez, Guedes, Hwang, Strand Larsen up front. Your thoughts to begin with?
I was shocked. I couldn't believe it when the team come out, considering we'd had quite a bit of a break from the last fixture as well against Spurs. I just thought we'd see a similar team to that, but Dawson injured, Semedo injured. Obviously, Andre's wife had a kid, so he was out in Brazil, I think, wasn't he? Still, obviously, the Cunha Ban. And who else was dropped? Bellegarde was swapped back out for Guedes, wasn't he? So, yeah, I was shocked, and I was even more shocked when Nori was left centre-back. I thought he might change up the formation because of the lack of options, but no, he stuck to his formation. And as soon as I saw that, I did think, fair enough for keeping the same formation, but that's pretty brave. And I was a bit worried about Nori at left centre-back, I must admit. And for the first goal, the Gibbs-White goal, he probably was at fault a little bit. He should have got a bit closer to Elanga. But yeah, it was good to see the young lads, though. Rodrigo Gomez and Pedro Lima starting. They were brilliant in pre-season, wasn't they? And I thought they both played really well, especially first half. So, yeah, I didn't think we could get anything after seeing the team. And it turned out to be true, didn't it? We kind of got Nuno'd in the end, didn't we?
Bayliss, it is what we called last week the Morgan Gibbs-White derby. You could call it the Nuno derby, the Willy Bolly derby. He was on the bench as well, sort of looking back at what we could have won, I suppose. Let's talk about Morgan Gibbs-White to begin with, because the chance, and as Harry has labelled the video, were Wolves fans taking it a bit too far with the Morgan Gibbs-White chance, and obviously more aimed at his girlfriend.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard worse things at football games. But it was always going to bite us in the arse because he's not a bad player. The Forest fans absolutely rave about him. But it was just sod's law, isn't it? Defending was woeful, but it's sod's law. And he did it in front of the South Bank and he got to celebrate. So he's had the last laugh. And that's about it, isn't it?
What do you think, Harry? Well, what are your thoughts on it? Because like Dan just said, he did have the last laugh and the chance did not last very long.
It's an interesting one because I've seen some Wolves fans as well say, get over it now. Do you know what I mean? Get over the Gibbs-White beef. Why do we keep singing the songs to him? It all triggered and kicked off after that quarter-final of the League Cup, didn't it? When they first give him loads of abuse. At the end, it's a weird one because I think he kind of brought it on himself back when he was playing for us, when he was out on loan. And, well, not so much him, his girlfriend, Brittany. We all know the story. Her tweeting out things about Wolves fans not appreciating him and that he should be starting. But you've got to think back to then. We were flying. We had Jota, Cavallero, Helder Costa, various other players, Adama Traore. So it was very hard for him to get into the team. And look, it didn't work out. It didn't work out for him at Wolves. He got the move he wanted in the end, and he's thriving. He's an absolutely fantastic player. There's no two ways about it. And what I will say is the way he conducted himself in the interview after the game, I thought was class. Like the way he just responded to it. Because I don't know about you lads, if the South Bank and you're playing for an opposition team starts singing "The Kid's Not Yours" and your missus is a slag, basically, I would have been fuming. So I thought he handled himself really well, and he kind of made us look like twats. That's just the way I think of it. I think he had the last laugh, scoring, and then taking the high road in his interview after, saying it's just banter and it don't bother him. It just fuels him to do better. So I think going forward, I think we will keep booing him every time we play, but all it's going to do is motivate him to score. And every time we play him now, he either scores or gets an assist or has an absolutely brilliant game. So I think we need to get over it. He got what he wanted. We got what we wanted. And if they qualify for Europe, we're going to get another £7 million out the deal as well, which looks like they will, the way they're playing.
Are we?
Yeah, £7
Yeah.
million in the add-on if they get into Europe.
Cool.
Wow.
Almost plays for Sam Johnston. That Bayliss, I think it's one of those games where we could have played all night and not scored. It was the first time I think in 11 games that we hadn't managed to score at Molineux. We've been pretty good at getting on the score sheet this season. I mean, is Strand Larsen? I think we were talking about it last week, weren't we, Harry? But obviously, question for Dan is that he does seem to split opinion, and half the fan base seem to think he's not very good. The other half think he's a decent player, good return with goals. What are your thoughts on him? Do you think he was unlucky, or do you think he should be putting those chances away in that first half? Because arguably, we could have been 3-2 up.
I think it's 50-50 to the point of he should have at least scored one of those. And within that first half, we actually played pretty well. We defended awfully. Let's take two separate halves of the pitch, but we attacked fantastically. I thought Lima was great. I liked how we got down either side, and Strand Larsen had chances. I think one of them was a worldie save by the keeper. Really, the shot. I think the header is just unlucky. It's a bullet header. It's flashed across the box. You stuck a head on it. Not much you can do. You either score or it hits the keeper, and it hit the keeper. I think the one that he turned on, he probably should have done better with. So he's in the right positions. He just didn't put them away. But look, Haaland's been on a goal drought, and he's the best poacher goal scorer in the league. I think another day that would have been 1-1, 2-2 at half time, and it probably would have been a different game of football. Don't really count their last goal because it was, smash and grab, last minute sort of stuff. So ignore that. I mean, anyone that's listened for a long time knows that I know a lot of Forest fans, and they were texting me throughout the game and stuff. And a lot of the comments were, "How have you guys not scored? Our keeper has got us into the position where we are in the league at the moment." So, they were pretty honest with it all.
And what do you think? Obviously, Dan, you would normally do the bets. Would you have put money on the two players that scored in that first half scoring? Because it always seems to happen, doesn't it? Either former players, in the case of Gibbs-White, or people, the Kevin Phillips of the world that seem to just score against us every time they play against us.
Well, I think I did. Did I share a bet? What was it? Was it Chris Wood to score or score a header or score any time or something? Because that was inevitable. I didn't actually look at the Morgan Gibbs-White one, but I thought Wolves were going to do better than they did. That's one thing I will say. I thought we were going to have a bit more of the game and do a little bit more than what the final result ended up at. So I wasn't going to go and chuck a load of money on us to get hammered, sort of thing. Yeah,
Harry, it was one of those games where young players were starting. Obviously, you mentioned Pedro Lima and Rodrigo Gomez already. I think Pedro Lima deserves a little bit more of a conversation now. I think we've been sort of looking at Semedo out of contract and talked to clubs abroad. Now it's the January transfer window. Obviously, captain as well, but he's out with an injury at the moment. But what were your thoughts on Pedro Lima? His crossing seemed fantastic.
Yeah, we've seen it before. He's shown it before, hasn't he, in the League Cup appearances and in pre-season. He's got a great cross on him. For his age as well, he looks like a natural. He don't look like you don't wince when he gets the ball, do you? You don't think, oh no, please don't make a mistake. He just looks comfortable and good. I thought at times Doc just didn't pass to him when he should have. I don't know if that's because Doc's thinking, oh, I don't trust him yet, so I'll switch, come back and just give it back to Santi. But yeah, I thought he had a really good game first half. Defensively, probably could have got back a bit more, but because he was flying forward so much, maybe he can learn from that and know when to sustain his position. Same with Rodrigo Gomez the other side. We were open quite a lot at the back, wasn't we, for that reason? But it was good to see us go for it. And it was nice to see us put so many crosses in with Strand Larsen in there. Yes, as you just mentioned, he had a bad day with his finishing. Should have had a couple of goals. Rodrigo Gomez should have scored as well. Should have that volley. Good strike, but another good save. And it was a combination of both, wasn't it? Poor finishing, but really good goalkeeping at the same time. And they've just been defending so well. And that goalkeeper is probably one of the best goalkeepers in the league at the moment this season with his performances. So, yeah, like I said, we got Nuno, especially first half. After Gibbs-White scored up until Chris Wood scored, we were the best team by a mile. But they sit back, don't they? We've seen it how many times under Nuno when he was our manager. Break with pace, nick that goal, and then shithouse it again second half, which they did. And they just sort it out with ease second half.
Dan, when we look at that bench, do you think it was more of a sort of a call to Jeff from Vitor to say we really do need reinforcements? Obviously, we'll talk about transfers that look like they're incoming later on in the podcast. But you look at outside the usual suspects, Bellegarde, Forbes, Lamina, Sarabia all coming on, but then you've got sort of Kundal, Moypew, Agbadou, Pond. Not really the strength in depth that we need, is it?
Well, we've had a few injuries, haven't we? So you've got to take that into account to an extent. We did look light, but we've signed a centre back, right? That's a done deal. That's been everywhere. That's done. I think we need another one to be competitive. Genuinely, I think without one more, we're still going to be found wanting a little bit.
On that point, Harry, Andrew says, despite losing 3-0 to Forest, who look like a decent team, Strand Larsen needs a strike partner. I don't know where Hwang and Bellegarde were, and I didn't see any good contribution from Bellegarde at all.
Yeah, I mean, just on Hwang Chan first, he was shocking. He had such a bad game. There was that one where like he went to shoot with his left foot and sliced it into the top of the north bank. He did well on the one where he cut back and give it to Strand Larsen, but apart from that, it's so weird with him. He's so streaky, and when he's bad, he's really bad. He's no point in being on the pitch. Bellegarde, he come on. He had a bit of a go. He come out on like right wing back, didn't he? Second half, and he was trying to get involved, but again, not for me at the moment. He's not really playing that well. But there's a few, like you say, Sarabia come on. I thought he was poor. Lamina looks like he's already got his head set on moving away from the way he played when he come on. I actually thought Tommy Doyle was pretty poor on the night. That's just my opinion. I thought he had a poor game for his standards. And yeah, I would actually look to be getting another striker in, because I don't think we'll see Kalajic for a while. Yes, Hwang Chan is probably the man that is a straight swap for Strand Larsen if Strand Larsen is rested. But I think we need another out-and-out number 9 to compete with Strand Larsen, along with a couple of centre-backs. As you say, Agbadou's done. As we record this, he's just landed in England, I think. So that's done, medical done, signed, sealed, all there. But I think we need another one. We do. And maybe another striker. But like I said last week, jokingly on the podcast, I do get a feeling we might only see Agbadou and maybe one more. And I think hopefully that Nottingham Forest game rings alarm bells in Jeff's ears when he sees how many injuries we had and how poor we looked without our core players. You know, the likes of Cunha, Semedo, Andre, I thought we missed a lot. Thought he was a real big miss in midfield, especially protecting the back line at times. So yeah, to answer your original question, Hwang and Bellegarde, they're just not the answer.
Pereira after the game said, you can say that we were unlucky, but for me, we created chances to score, but we faced a team that were physically strong, and we felt that on the pitch. They were very fast on the counter-attack, and when they score first, they're a team that are compact and wait for mistakes. Each mistake we made, they scored a goal. They scored at the end of the first half in a moment where we could have equalised. We didn't, and this is not luck. Sometimes you have to say luck, but I thought their goalkeeper made fantastic saves. We need to improve our details inside the box to score more goals. Obviously, a first defeat for Vitor Pereira, Dan. What are your thoughts on his first 4 odd games in charge, and obviously his words after the game? Because they're not, that sentiment isn't dissimilar to what Gary O'Neill was saying, but I think he seems to have a little bit more to back it up with.
Yeah, it's not really his team yet, and I call it luck, but we missed our chances and Forest scored theirs. But I think there is a noticeable improvement, isn't there? You know, I think we're playing better football. We look competitive on the pitch. And that's the biggest positive you could ask for with a manager change, right? So we've still got to do a lot. I know we've been head in the clouds the last few weeks because we've had the results, but we've still got to do a hell of a lot to stay up. You know, our next run of fixtures is shocking. We could go 5 on the spin here with not a lot. Now that I've said that, obviously we'll win every game. But there's a lot of work to do to still cement our place. And let's go and pick up a point against Villa at home and sneak a win somewhere, and I'll be a lot more optimistic about the whole thing. But if we were still with O'Neill, we'd be dead and buried, I think, by now. So there's the positive spin on it.
Let's talk about those transfers because the comment section is filling up. Charlie says, get rid of Hwang and Bellegarde. We need a centre-back and a goal scorer. Same from Niall as well. Sell Hwang Chan, sell Sarabia. Take the Lamina money. 2 centre-backs are a must. Martin says, Agbadou push pineapple, shake a tree. Obviously from the Black Lace song. And it's you know it's going to happen. Harry, let's start with him because he's coming from Reims, and I believe you've got a story about Reims and Baylis and some French.
Oh,
women.
let's not do that. Let's not do that to him. Baylis, I'm going to save you the embarrassment. No, what I will say is that we actually stopped in Reims, didn't we?
We did.
On the way back
from Turin.
Turin, yeah, when we drove to Turin, when we drove back, we stopped
20-hour drive.
Yeah, Baylis got a speeding ticket. There's one of the funny stories. But yeah, on Agbadou, his first two clubs before Reims, I can't remember their names now, but they are so unknown. You won't even Upin, one of them. But yeah, he's had 3 good seasons at Reims. He looks good, doesn't he? 27, going into his prime years. Plays for Ivory Coast, 11 appearances for them. Big athletic lad, and I think he'll be coming straight in because he's a senior player, isn't he? Really, it'd be interesting to see how he finds it in the Prem. It'll probably take him a little bit to get used to it, like it took Santi, if you remember when Santi. When I first come in, he struggled a little bit at first, but he's improved a bit, and he's our only centre back at the moment, and it's a good job he's here.
Genuine question.
On Hwang Chan, sorry, he's heavily linked with West Ham, isn't he? But I mean, I'd take 20 million for him. That's the rumour. I mean, you'd snap your hand off for that the way he's been playing.
Genuine question: are Reims any good?
Good question. I don't actually know, but I know they're in the top French league, but it's not
they're
the
Ligue
league,
1, aren't they? Yeah, I mean, it's 18 million euros, Dan, and 2 million plus of add-ons. I'm not quite sure what those add-ons would be. It doesn't seem a big enough amount to be any sort of European football or anything like that. Not that we're going to be anywhere near that this season, but we don't know what the time limit is from it. Does it fill you for a little bit of confidence?
It's nice to see the right person coming in the right position because that's what should have happened over the summer and it didn't. So yeah, to an extent.
Harry, one that's been linked today is Renato Vega from Chelsea, looking, I think, around the £10 million mark. Seen in a few reports. I know that the Daily Mail has certainly reported on it today, so we know that it's not true. But would this be the sort of signing that we should be looking at? Sort of fringe players at Chelsea that you could be the next Mark Gahey or the next whoever they let go and want to re-sign.
You took the words out of my mouth then when you said that about Daily Mail. But he's Portuguese, isn't he? I think if we did get him, it'd probably be a loan with an option to buy the classic. That's what they love to do, isn't it, Jeff? And that I believe he's a left. Was it Vitor that said he wanted a left-footed centre half, didn't he, or left-sided centre back? And I think he's left-footed. This lad, I could be wrong, but that's where I read somewhere.
Yeah. He's a left back, so
he ticks all the boxes, doesn't he? Portuguese. Left back, defender. I would take, if Chelsea are willing, I think I would take him. I think we just need the numbers, and he's at Chelsea. He must be half decent, and he's if anything, he could just be cover as well. And I'm sure he'd get a lot of football, which he'd want if he's going out on loan, and what Chelsea would want him to do. So I'd certainly be up for that one. I did see that, and that was one I thought, that happens.
How much do you think Jeff will be willing to spend in this transfer window, Dan? Because obviously it's a fair amount, looking around the £15 million mark for Agbadou. Maybe looking at 10 million, or like Harry says, possibly a loan option for Vega.
Yeah, I can't see us doing much more, can we? It's did we share the article in the end about the Chinese investment in sport from a couple of years ago? It's just not happening. I shared it with you lads. I don't know.
You mentioned it on the podcast. I think last time you were on.
Yeah, they've shut up shop, so I can't see us splashing any big money about. It's literally the second that article came out, Wolves' coffers completely closed. So
yeah, well, we're spending 20 million euros on this Agbadou, but that you would think we probably will sell someone. I mean, Johnson's been linked away, hasn't he? Be interesting to see if he plays the weekend. Lamina, it'll only be a small fee for him because he's only got 6 months left on his deal. And then if Hwang goes, I think the Hwang link, because I think Lopetegui wanted him, but now Lopetegui's gone, so I don't know if West Ham will still come in for him. But then there's been teams abroad linked with him as well, hasn't there? And there's been other teams apart from Al Shabab that are linked with Lamina from Europe. So now we've signed this Agbadou, knowing Jeff and Fosun, we will be seeing someone be sold, I think.
And do you think anyone else will come in, Harry? Or do you think that will be it?
It wouldn't surprise me if it's just Agbadou and then they make up loads of excuses, but surely we get at least one more defender in. I mean, the dream would be another 2 or 3, but we've got issues with I think I read somewhere we've got issues with squad registration numbers, so we'd have to sell to bring more in. I think we're full. I mean, we've got 4 bloody goalkeepers, haven't we, registered? So hopefully Johnston can go. But yeah,
I'm starting centre back next week.
Yeah, I'll hope so, mate, because you know what the reaction's going to be if we only have Agbadou and that's it, and then nothing else happens. It's going to be, and if we won't go down as well, my life, they'll have to sell.
It's difficult, isn't it, Dan? Because all of this seems so avoidable, and everybody's been saying the same thing for years about centre backs alone, and we go and sign a goalkeeper who looks like he's not going to last 6 months.
I think it is simple. In case of managers should be able to go and buy the players they need in the best league on earth. So, you know, the chance of Fosun out are more appropriate than talking about Morgan Gibbs-White's misses. It's true. It's true.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
You know, you see it in this league every single time. Villa are a prime example. They've splashed the cash. They've got one of the highest wage bills. Look at where they are. Mm-hmm. We're doing the opposite. We've got rid of our talent, haven't replaced it because the coffers have been closed, and now we are where we are. It's evident you have to spend big money in this league to progress as a club and to go into the heights of not just the top half, but further on from that. So it's a really simple game. It's almost getting as boring as like F1. Spend the most money, win.
Yeah, great point. Yeah, obviously relegation coming into it makes a bit of a difference. But Harry, do you think Forest have played a blinder on that front, or do you think they've done it by accident because they signed about 5 million players when they came up? Obviously, spent a lot of money. They got a points deduction, 4 points, I think, last season, and it was looking a little bit ropey because they were sort of flirting with relegation at the time. But it means that eventually that big chunk of loss falls off your profit and sustainability rules, but you've obviously already got the outlay and can possibly release the shackles a little bit. Do you think they did it on purpose, or do you think it's just one of those things where it's worked out well? They've landed on a formula that they know works in obviously what Nuno does, basing it around some key players, your Morgan Gibbs-White and your Chris Woods of the world?
I don't think they did it on purpose. I think they just panicked when they got promoted and thought, right, we've got to sign loads of talent to try and stay up. And then it bit them on the ass. But luckily, they survived by the skin of their teeth, didn't they, after that deduction? Well, luckily for them, no one else. And this season, it just shows how quick things can turn, doesn't it? You've scraped survival, and then now they're on 40 points after 20 games the season after. It's a combination of things. They've made some really good signings. They have. Their 2 centre-halves are fantastic. They're so solid. Yeah, I mean, Gibbs-White's obviously coming to his own. The goalkeepers, as you mentioned, is class. The midfield, Hudson-Odoi, Elanga, they've got so many quick players on the wings, and Chris Wood has just hit miracle form. So everything's clicked for him, and their manager, Nuno.
Yeah, they built a team.
Yeah, it's a team. And like I said, when we were talking about Gary O'Neill and identity and knowing what your team's going to be and knowing what you play and what our system is, under Nuno, all of us on this podcast could name our team every week. And I'm sure Nottingham Forest fans can name their team every week and know exactly how they're going to play. Yes, sometimes it got a bit frustrating towards the end and we couldn't break teams down and that. But look at them, bloody sat third in the bloody league, joint second. And it ain't pretty to watch at times, but I'll tell you what, it's bloody effective. So that, for me, they got lucky, survived. They've got the right manager, a good squad, and they're just playing really well. And as a team, and they've won 6 in a row now, and it's no accident. It's the Nuno effect. He gets it right when most of the time. I know it didn't work out some places, but most of the time he gets it right.
Yeah, Tom Rouse, good to see you, Rouse. Teams coming up are so weak that it would have been worth taking a 5-point hit with FFP to invest in the squad, especially when you only need 32 points to stay up. It's a good point, isn't it, Dan? Because it does seem to be more of the case now that the bottom 3 are usually the teams that came up, the sort of or seem nailed on in the supercomputer to go straight back down again. You could argue that PSR has sort of given teams like Wolves, Forest, and other similar clubs like that a little bit of a taste of what it can be like to go on a good run and put together a good team and potentially get into Europe.
Yeah, totally. And it's one of those where go to the 3 teams first. The 3 teams that come up are poor, and that's what we should be targeting to get above them. Ipswich the only one at the moment that seems to pull off the odd shock result, but that tends to fade at the back end of the season. So Wolves should be outperforming those 3 teams. Leicester have been pretty woeful. Southampton have almost gone. So there should be enough there for us to take some positives out of it. But the FFP thing, I still think a lot of it was fluff. It'd be interesting to get who was the chap that we had on from from Coventry University. It'd be interesting to see where we are at the end of this season and if they are technically allowed to spend again.
That's a really good chat, actually. Yeah, because or even before the end of the season, just to see if any of the predictions come true, it'd be quite interesting. Okay, well, let's move on to the Bristol City game, and obviously who may or may not be playing, but one player who won't be playing as he completes his ban is Mateus Cunha. Harry, we found out a little bit more about his punishment and possibly why it was reduced. And apparently the Brazilians offered to pay for new glasses for a member of Ipswich's security team, helped save him from a longer ban and a heavier fine. So it could have been a £120,000 fine and a 3-game ban, but they took a third off both of them. So he got an £80,000 fine and a 2-game ban. So going and saying sorry, sort of with your tail between your legs, and saying I'll get you a new pair of Dolce & Gabbanas to say sorry seemed to do the trick.
Yeah, and I think the fact that originally it was only a 3-game ban, I read as well, is because he had a really good disciplinary record. Like, he's never been sent off, which I thought would be the case because everyone thought it was going to be about 5 games, didn't they? Everyone, because they were comparing it to other ones. And fair play to Cunha. We said, didn't we? He was so out of character for him because he comes across as one of the nicest blokes ever when you see his interviews and that and the behind the scenes videos. And the fact he sat down and wrote him a letter and offered him fine glasses just sums up how much of a nice bloke he is, really, doesn't it? And he's done us a favour in writing that letter because we get him back straight away for the Newcastle game, don't we, after Bristol? So he probably wouldn't have played in this game anyway, would he, against Bristol? He'd have been rested, so it's worked out pretty good. And I was very good. I don't really think it matters about the fine. Like, I'm sure he could have afforded 120 grand, the 80 grand. What's that, a week's wages? So yeah. Good from Cunha though. He's come out good in the end.
I still think you you say about it's out of character. Some of the best sports people I've ever met are like the loveliest people off the pitch. Second you get them on, they are complete and utter arseholes. So I think the second you step across the line, everyone's got a bit of bite about them. So I'd rather him care about the game than to just salt off into the changing.
Harry, with Cunha, obviously I think he's probably still considering his options potentially, but it looks like there's going to be a new deal on the table for him. I mean, he'd be silly not to take it because just because you sign a new deal doesn't mean you're going to get sold. There's potential of putting a release clause in it, though, obviously. But I was seeing some reports saying that it's going to be a £45 million release clause. I mean, we paid 47 million for him.
Yeah, I read that. So what it is, the release clause is if we get relegated. So if we get relegated, we've got to agree to let him go for 45 million, which is 5 million more than we paid for. But I think if we stay up and he wants to go, I don't believe there is a clause in it, but then we can get. So if we stay up and he demands to go, we're going to get massive money for him, I think, because obviously we'd want to keep him if we stay up. And it's a 4.5-year deal, isn't it, allegedly, that he's agreed to. He already had 2.5 years left on his current deal. But I think they're making him the highest paid player. And fair play to Cunha. Like, I'm sure his agent is buzzing because he's going to get a cut of the new deal. Then he'll get a cut when he moves on. So it's great business from his agent. But I think it's more than deserved. And I think it's good from Jeff Sheehan-Fosun to try and tie him down to look after our main asset. Because I was very worried that we might see him move on this January or something. I wouldn't have put it past him. I really wouldn't have. But he's been our best player by a mile, hasn't he? He had his little bit of a blip, obviously, that Ipswich game and the few performances before that. He went missing a bit, but the bloke you can tell he genuinely likes playing for us, which is good to see, because some people with his ability, their head gets too big, like Nunes, for example, who ended up going to City. their head gets too big. They think their shit don't stink, and they fall out with the fans because they refuse to train and things like that. But Cunha don't come across as that bloke at all, and he's really the key for our survival when he comes back.
Absolutely, and obviously saving some cash, buying some glasses. Tom says, where's he getting some 40k specs from? Neil says, if they're gold glasses, they must be good. David says, well, he would pay for glasses if he saved a 40k fine. Martin says, we could get Specsavers as our new sponsor for next season. I don't see it happening. Let's look at Bristol City. Bayliss, I know. Whenever we play Bristol City, I always think of two things. One is Nuno over-celebrating after being sent to the stands with Ryan Bennett's winner at Ashton Gate. The other one is where Wolfie had a fight with Three Little Pigs. What's a fond memory for you? And do you think Vitor will go strong for this one?
I don't know whether you set this up because you know, or whether this is going to come out of the blue. My first ever Wolves away game was the Three Little Pigs game.
Excellent.
Was it, Bayliss?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's great.
Yeah, my dad
he was one of the pigs.
Yeah. I can't have been very old. What year was it?
You'd have been 7, so 98.
97, 98. Yeah.
8,
Yeah, I remember it. Were we 1-0 down and won 6-1 or 5-1? Or
it was 6-1, yeah. It was Colin Lee's first game as manager after McGee got sacked.
Was it?
I did a video on it, so I know all the little stats about it. I was
going to say, you've just reeled them off nicely.
Yeah. The Wolfie was called Chris Bird, and the bloke he punched and split his lip, his name was, I forget, but I have got it on the tip of my tongue.
That's great. Do you know what, weirdly, I vividly remember the day, weirdly, still. Like, my dad took me completely, like, overawed by being in the away end and hearing what you hear. I remember that we went with, sadly, a diehard Wolves fan that's passed away now, a guy called Andy Parker and his son. So it was just one of those days. I always remember it.
Oh, excellent. No, that's obviously bringing back some memories there. But Harry, is he going to go strong? What's going to happen? I mean, I'm seeing some comments in the comment section wanting to see people like Moipu maybe get a start. It looks like Pedro Lima will probably get a start as well. If we're looking down the sort of injury list, it looks like obviously Totti's still out. Andre apparently is carrying a knock as well, which is possibly why he didn't play after returning from Brazil, because I think he was expected to be in that at least a squad. Obviously Dawson with a calf, and then you've got the usual suspects of Mosquera, Kalajic and Boubacar Traore out as well.
So they called the baby knock today. You say Andrew's carrying a knock. Yeah, so I reckon he'll go. I reckon it'll be drastic changes. I actually said the same on my video. I think it'd be a bit of weird nuisance if we got far in the FA Cup with our sole aim to survive. And we have this argument every year about the magic of the FA Cup dying because of the finances of the Premier League, and is more and more becoming like the League Cup, isn't it? So we'll almost have a third string team out. I think it'd be even weaker than the team that was put out against Forest. Yes, I think Pedro Lima will be right wing back. We probably will see Rodrigo Gomez again start. It'll be either Johnston or Dan Bentley in goal. He'll probably play Hwang or Guedes for the middle and rest Strand Larsen. I think Forbes will start, won't he? Because he hadn't had many starts. Midfield, Tommy Doyle. And who else would he put in midfield, do you reckon? Kundal? Kundal was on the bench the other day. You might see the likes of Kundal. Yeah. So it'll be a very weak starting lineup. There's no doubt about it, in my opinion, because we're on the cusp of relegation and we need to get everyone recovered and fit for the next Premier League game. We've got some tough games coming up, haven't we? But I'd like to see us win, obviously. I'd look back at the stats. We've played Bristol twice in our history in the FA Cup, and we've won 1-0 both times. The last one being when we got to the semi-finals under Nuno.
Somebody went to that.
Yeah, Cavallero, when it got the only goal that day. But it'd be interesting. I think the big factor will be is what Bristol do, because they're just outside the playoffs. Whether they think they can get in the playoffs this season, I don't know. They've won 3 of their last 4, and they drew the other one. So if they go full strength and we do play almost a third team, we might lose. We might, and they'll be up for it, won't they? They're fans. And we had one being 12 o'clock. We was talking before we come on, weren't we, Bayliss? So I thought it was on TV, but it's not in England. So it would be Dodgy Stick FC. Not that I own one, but I'm sure I'll find one for the weekend. And try and find a stream to watch it. I don't know why. We still don't know why it's 12 o'clock, but a bit of a nuisance. But there we go.
Strange one, isn't it, Dan? I mean, we talk about, well, how obviously Harry's mentioned it already, the magic of the cup potentially, leaving. But it's exactly for reasons like this. You kick off at 12 o'clock and no bugger can watch it unless you go to the game.
No, well, yeah, ridiculous. I don't see the reason they made it at 12 o'clock other than to play it in another country, but show it in another country. Obviously, somewhere in the Far East, well known for Bristol City fans.
But
fuck knows. Yeah, I normally love the FA Cup. I normally enjoy going to the games. I like the whole sort of you can play anyone. This year, sack it off, play the kids, get knocked out, stay up. Sorry.
You don't think it would be part of like a master plan, Harry, to get into Europe through the back door, having just scraped, say, survival? No.
Well, no, but also,
Okay.
Well, it's funny. We'll ask the question now to you two. Remember when Wigan won the FA Cup and got relegated? If it was guaranteed that Wolves win the FA Cup this year, would you take relegation?
Nope.
It's a tough one for me.
There. Now I'm thinking about it.
It's a tough one because obviously for the future of your club, you want to be in the Premier League. But winning the FA Cup, imagine that. I'll be back on the piss, lads. My 100 days of sobriety would be right out the window if we won the FA Cup.
Or maybe I would have to win the FA Cup rather than... No. Oh.
No.
Stop thinking about it. I won't sleep.
No. Maybe a silly question.
Let's do a score prediction, Harry.
I'll go with the same as what I said on my own video. I'm going to say history's going to repeat itself. 1-0 Wolves.
Bayliss?
2-0 Bristol City.
Oh, very negative. I'm going to go for a 1-0 win as well. I'm going to match Harry. Hopefully they don't use the same ball as they do in the Carabao Cup. Did you see Arteta coming out after the game saying it was the ball? I just want to go through very quickly the Carabao Cup run that Arsenal have had. So third round, they beat Bolton at home 5-1. Last 16, they beat Preston 3-0. Quarterfinal, they lost. They beat Crystal Palace 3-2. But obviously, it was the ball they were using in the fourth game of the competition that seemed to be the problem. What a whinging little bitch! Right, okay. Let's have a look at anything else. Is there anything else to talk about? I can't remember.
We've got a new logo.
Harry not.
Oh yeah, that's it. Harry's sobriety. I did want to talk about this because there may be people listening and thinking, actually, I'm going to give it a go. So, Harry, you've completed your 100 days of sobriety. So, the last time Harry had a alcoholic drink was Liverpool at home, or during that day. I don't know if he can remember that. Harry, what was the reason that you knocked it on the head after that, and how have you found it since stopping?
The reason was I was really hungover after that game. I've tried to stop drinking a few times, and I never could go more than a week. Genuinely, I've tried it a few times this year. It gets to the weekend, I'd cave in. I think having kids is a big reason because being hungover and having kids is not ideal. And yeah, I just fancied it. I didn't. When I was after that game on the Sunday, I thought, right. I think my aim at first was 30 days, and then when I got about halfway through, I thought, nah. If I want to make this a proper challenge and go for it, I'm going to go for 100, which means I'd have to not drink at Christmas. And then when I got to about halfway through, I actually did a video on my own YouTube channel. The benefits way better than the negatives. Like the negatives are nights out are really boring. People get a bit uncomfortable because they're like, why aren't you drinking? And it's like the elephant in the room. But that's about it, really. Honestly, like I struggled on Christmas Day. But everything else, like throughout the week, I'm less depressed. Like Monday and Tuesday, usually I'm a write-off, which if I've had a heavy weekend, I'm more like balanced than that. Yeah, and I don't know. I just feel a lot better for it, but I do miss it at the same time. It's weird.
Have you noticed it physically? Like, are you fitter, or have you lost a bit of weight, or?
I sleep much better, and my moods are better, and I've got better skin. Genuinely, that's probably the only few ones. And I've never, and what really surprised me, I didn't realise is I'd never been out around people drunk when I'd been sober because I was that much of a pisshead. You lads know what I was fucking like. That much of a pisshead. I'd never been around really drunk people sober, ever. And until we went to that darts, Sam, and I witnessed it. Jesus Christ, am I that much of a
darts sober?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
but
wow.
I've thought about going back and just trying to have a few, but funnily enough, someone commented on that video I did after 50 days, and they tried to do the same thing, and they went even worse than when they stopped drinking. So they had 3 months off, tried to go back and have a few, and just went back into a madness. So I weren't like an alcohol, like you lads know. I was just a really bad binge drinker, and I just couldn't stop. No off switch. And after a few beers at the Wolves, I'd go home and just drink a bottle of whiskey on my own, easy, like just blackout drunk. I had to get blackout drunk. I can't do it. I can't just do the few beers. I just can't. So that's why I stopped as well. But if I do go back and have a few, I don't know. I'm scared to now. If I have 2 beers now, like, I'll be dribbling. I was dribbling.
Do you know what the funny thing is, Harry?
Yeah.
Everyone I've ever known that's quit drinking and done it long term, none of them ever regret it.
I don't regret it. No. I saw a great quote. Someone said, like, sobriety gives you everything being drunk promises you. I think that's a really good quote.
Oh no, I totally agree. I mean, you know, you've obviously got the health benefits. I imagine there's some financial ones in there as well. But I just want to say, we're really proud of you. For getting through that 100 days and sticking to it. You picked a really difficult time of year as well, for Christmas, because landing towards the end of it must have been so tempting, but well done. On the other hand, Bayliss has been drinking for about 100 days straight, just so the economy doesn't collapse.
What's it like drinking every day, Bayliss? How do you do it?
Yeah, I think I need to do 100 days. But
excellent. Well, look, well done. Keep it up for as long as you need to. We love you. So if you are heading to the football at the weekend, make sure you get up nice and early for that 12 o'clock kickoff that nobody wanted. And we'll say goodbye to the forever sober Harry Mansell.
Cheers. See you in a bit.
If you're ever drunk, Dan Bayliss.
Goodbye.
And all in moderation, it's a goodbye from me.